push the buzz like rush. Whatever tunes your knees to mush, they hit the lift. Even if you gotta sift through the shit to get to the twist. The smile I hide like it's your very last line. You'll never get another try. Do it loud. Do it for the loud. For the here and now.
Well, hey, I just want to this is probably not going to take very long, but I am going to pull up a map because there's, I've looked at the location that you tried to explain to me where this happened for yourself, and
Right.
I couldn't find a ball field, but I did find, at 150th and N Street or whatever street that was.
In road, yeah.
I
Yeah,
could not find a ball field. So I'm going to pull that up and let you explain to me if the ball field is no longer there, kind of where it was.
sure. It should still be there. I looked it up as far before I told you all about it, and as far as Google Earth is concerned, it's still there.
Okay, well then I'm sure I was probably just off on wherever I was trying to look. But
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott, and I mean you can give your last name if you want to, but I'll just call him Scott. And he reached out to me after I made some announcements about going out and checking out the Topeka area of the latest sighting report out there. And so we've become friends since then. And we met up today for the first time on scene. So I am going to pull up a map so that we can kind of look at it.
Mhm. And when you pull it up, it should be on the north side of 150th, and it'll be in between N Road and O Road.
Okay, well, here we go. First, ladies and gentlemen, Scott, can you see the map?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we've got Hoyt. His story is going to start at Hoyt. But as far as if you can see my cursor down here, maybe even right in here is 94th Street. So this is where, right here, this where my cursor is down here off of Highway 75 is where we were at a couple of hours ago, going over this sighting report. So that's where this current sighting report activity took place. So we are going to go up, and his story starts here in Hoyt. So you want to go ahead and take it over there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 2013, and my youngest son, little league, elementary level little league baseball. It was within our first week of having practice, and most of the Midwest is pretty much the same timeline. That you start off either the last week of February or the first week of March, depending on weather, and so we normally would have our practice inside the Hoyt municipal ball diamonds up there. And this particular time, they had some kind of a scheduling confusion. They double booked the ball diamond, and the other group of kids, little leaguers, they had showed up before we did. So they asked us, we're sorry, and well, you're going to have to find another ball diamond kind of thing. Our parent group kind of got together, and luckily somebody within the group had a contact out on the reservation that's a little bit north of Hoyt, and we were like, well, shoot, parent, anywhere you're happy you packed the kid up and got him in the car and got to the ball diamond, so we were salvaging our day. Got over to it was at 150th and in between N Road and O Road on the north side of 150th. 150th, if you go just off of Highway 75, that they have a casino there, and it's actually a pretty large facility. And once you get into the interior, 150th is like almost like Main Street, if you will, for this rural area. It's a main artery going across the reservation, and other than the casino part of it next to the highway, I can't tell you before this event had I spent hardly any time on the reservation, wasn't familiar. They told me, hey, it's simple, just 150th Street, stay on that main road, keep going, you'll see the ball diamond kind of thing. No problem, we'll get there. And we did.
So I'm on
Had a great
150.
practice. It's just a.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm on 150th here between
Yes, I can.
O and N Road, but I don't see it.
No, on your map, I don't either. Look up.
And
Yeah,
it's the same.
150th and N Road is what I've.
Yeah, so here's the intersection of N Road and 150th.
And it should be basically where your cursor's at as far as the 150th and O and N.
Okay, well, then we'll just say this is the general spot where it was or is at.
We'll just keep going on, I guess.
Okay.
That ball diamond was the adults that lived on the reservation that they used it for softball. It was mostly what it was used for, or at least that's what I was told anyway. And they at that moment they didn't have any people out there, and they weren't using it, so they were happy to let our kids practice that day. And practice went on just like normal. Nothing special about the practice other than location was different. Of course, you know, you have 10-year-old boys out there, and they're going to hoot and holler and make a bunch of noise and joke, and you're going to have to kind of corral them like they're a bunch of cats, you know. I mean, to keep their focus going.
Yeah.
And the last half of the practice, that one of the coaches, they were short an assistant coach, and the head coach wanted some additional batting practice. So I don't know if anybody, I'm sure everybody, you know, you have kids and you've at least seen this thing where you there's a little ball that's on a flexible stick, and that stick's, I don't know, 6 foot, 7 foot long. And you hold that out there almost like a T-ball kind of thing, and the kids will take swipes at it with the bat, and it helps them with their batting practice, get their aim right. So I'm helping out with that, and it's something pretty simple to do. I don't, you know, I'm not a baseball coach, never have been, but I was to assist. Well, then we got towards the end of practice, and the boys, they were kind of done with it and trying to get their focus still. We said, okay, enough of that, and they decided, okay, it's time for, you know, a bathroom break, potty break. Okay, no problem. So on the back side of the ball diamond, there was a tree line that also had like a fence line, a property line to it. And the boys, they just went naturally to that tree line right there where the fence line was at to go relieve themselves. Well, there's one of them in particular, and I wish I could remember that little kid's name. I just don't recall his name anymore, but he was shorter than the rest of the kids, and he was just about as wide as he was short. You know, and he was the class clown. He was, and since for whatever reason he liked talking to me and joking around. Well, I found out that he was, I guess, a little shy, so to speak. He didn't stand right next to the rest of the boys right there as they were using bathroom break. He went down further down the tree line, the tree row, to where there was a clump or corner of trees, and was, you know, kind of do his thing down there. Well, while they were doing that, I had returned to the bleachers that was back behind the backstop where my wife was at, thinking that my job was basically over. The boys, you know, they get done with the potty break, they'll just join up the rest of them inside the ball diamond there. And this little boy, the one that kind of separated himself from the rest of them, he turns his head, looks back to me, and calls for me to come over there. And again, I'm kind of go back to what like a parent, you know, if you've got kids in the house and all of a sudden things go quiet, you generally know that's not a good thing, that they're up to something, right? That you got to go and investigate. the tone of his voice, it wasn't fear, or at least I didn't perceive it as fear, but it was of concern. It was real monotoned. It was real. His eyes were wide, and all he's Scott, come here, and that's all I got out of him, and that's odd for him.
So
It was out of character.
so were you under the impression that afterwards that he was trying to get your attention without alerting what his attention was drawn to?
I don't think it was that kind of a plan. I think that he was reacting to what he was seeing inside the wood line there, and well, maybe you're right. I don't know. Whether or not it was, I never asked him. He and I never talked afterwards about this thing. That maybe he was afraid of he was seeing inside. When I walked up there to go see what he wanted, to see if he was okay, I know I was concerned, but at the same time, I had in the back of my head that keep in mind that this is the class clown, and I've had experience with this little kid, and I was waiting for him to set me up with a joke and wait for the other coaches and all the other adults to start laughing about whatever this kid's going to play on me, kind of thing. But at the same time, he had that concern in his voice, and that was enough of an override for me. And I thought, okay, I need to go see what's happening. Why is he calling me over there? And when I got there, he just pivoted his body back to the woods and pointed, and he says, "You see that man standing there?" And at the first couple of seconds, I honestly, I can't say that I did. I had to kind of focus, and but when I did see this figure, it wasn't that difficult to make out. I mean, it was slightly taller than my own head. I later went back and found out that the ground degraded or sloped downwards into that tree line. So when that thing was slightly taller than me, when I was looking at it, it was actually taller than me when you consider the downgrade of the land. But it was also at the time of sunset, and there was an orange sherbet sun setting in the west, and it was kind of hitting the side of myself as well as the figure that we were looking at in this wood line. This wood line, it had some hardwood to it. It was mostly red cedar type of thing. So it had good canopy cover, good shadow to it. And the sun, even though it was still up, it was hitting from the side, and it was almost at the horizon going down. Not the best of conditions to get a lot of detail of what I'm looking at. But it definitely had a humanoid shape to it. It was very broad-chested, wide. I wouldn't say the size of a sheet of plywood, meaning 4 foot wide. I didn't see it being that big. But its chest was bigger than mine, the chest area. And if you've ever seen the old classic pictures of the Missouri Momo, where it has a hoodie on it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking at. I'd look for a face, for eyes, for nose, for mouth. I couldn't see any of that because it looked like I'm going to say it was like hair or like leaves and sticks kind of thing is what it looked like. But it had enough of a shadow, you couldn't make out the face, or at least I couldn't anyway. So I then immediately focused to the center mass of the chest, because my insides, my instinct was telling me that I'm looking at something that's alive. It never moved. The reason why I looked at its chest is because I wanted to see if it was breathing, if it was, and I couldn't tell you if it was breathing or not. I couldn't see any movement whatsoever. But I still, between the boy, his reaction, his concern, and also me looking at this myself, uh, it just told me that I'm looking at something that's alive. And my very first instinct that I did not act on is I wanted to walk closer. I wanted to see better what it was I was looking at. But the boy, and I wish again I can remember his name. I want to call him Wade, but I know that's not right. It was a W name. Was standing in front of me. I was standing just right behind him. And that kind of stopped me. That wait a minute, I got to move him out of the way before I can move forward, type of thing. And then it reminded me, there's a child, parent protection mode. I remember saying, yes, I do see the man standing there in front of us. And I don't remember the boy saying anything more after that. I remember looking for like maybe a second, two more. But at that time, then my focus became, I need to get him back to the group, back to safety. So I remember putting my hands on his shoulders and turning him around, and we headed back to the ball diamond. And
So did you so you had to physically take his attention away from like staring at that thing to get him to redirect backward?
I didn't, well, sort of, because I didn't tell him that we're going to walk back, or I don't remember saying we're going to walk back. I just in my own mind had decided that we're walking back. So had I told him, hey, turn around, we're going to go back, would he have? Maybe he would have, but that really wasn't in my head. My head was, we are going to turn around now and we are going to leave now, type of thing. It was very instinctual. I don't know how else to describe that. It just, at that time, all I was concerned with is, hey, this kid is not joking. He's not being the class clown. I don't know what I'm seeing in front of me. My instincts are telling me that it's alive, and we need to get back to the group. So that's what we did.
So when you can see that, when you see this section here that my cursor is in, that's
Right.
and this corner is where the ball diamond is. So is this generally the wood line you'd be talking about?
I'm going to say yes, but it, I'm a little confused. I guess that has changed up there. Again, I don't go to that reservation. So after that occurrence, I really haven't gone back up there. Has it changed that much? Maybe it has. I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, you can see over here to the right of that section is Little Soldier Creek. So no matter how much it meanders and wanders throughout the terrain going south, that's still the creek that was right there where this latest sighting took place on that same creek.
Well, and yeah, and that was also kind of one of the things that kind of prompted me to get a hold of you, because because it reminded me of my own experience just north. So I went and I looked back online about that, and O Road and Little Soldier kind of go together, so to speak, right there. And then that was like, well, I'll be darned that Little Soldiers down south where this recently had just happened. Another gentleman had his experience down there, but that Little Soldier seems to be the commonality there. That maybe that's their trackway. I guess
Right. Yeah.
that's a guess, but
I mean, and it doesn't even take really an educated guess that, you're talking about 2013 is when you had your sighting.
yes.
We have to assume that they've been there all along. They were there way before you had your sighting. They're just that good at not being seen. So you see one, that little boy with you sees one and is quite confused about it, but it's on this same creek. And when you pull back in the map and you see the way this creek just kind of works its way down, and there is plenty of cover there. They don't need much cover, especially from what I've seen in multiple places. They just need to have some cover. That it doesn't have to be a mountain, a whole mountain worth of woods for them to be able to duck in and stay for the day. But it looks to me like we've got a pattern. And this is a big chunk of woods right here. And this is actually the chunk of woods that I went to first. and there's a lady on this driveway here going in on the west side. I went all the way back to that house and I talked to them because I was hoping to get access to that huge, hell, that's half a section, of woods, and it's on Little Soldier Creek. So if I was to think that there's a wooded chunk on that creek that would be a stopping point, I would think it would be there.
Well, and I this is just like urban legend story kind of thing. I don't have any, but I have been told that same section that you're talking about right there, that the school bus in early morning, that the bus driver had claimed that something ran alongside the bus, and of course disappeared into the tree line or the wood line right there. But right there in that same section that you're talking about, but it was what is this? I don't know if that's still O Road or what road that is right there. That's going to be to the east of your cursor. No, the other way, the other road, other. Yeah, that one. While
That's
the
P
bus was
Road.
going down that road, P Road, but during that section right there where that dense wood is at, that like a old country dog, like an old German Shepherd will run alongside your car while you're going down its property line. Kind of the
Yeah.
same thing, that it ran alongside the bus on that road down there. Now,
Now,
I
do you
don't
know?
have any proof of it, anything about it.
Is there any
Go
other
ahead.
component? Is there any other component to that particular story that you might remember? Let's say, was it after the bus lady picked up some kids in that area? You
She
know
was
how
on
many?
her she was on her morning route to pick up kids. But
Okay,
I can't
well,
remember if she had already picked up the kids or she was on her way to pick up kids. I don't remember that part of the story.
okay, well, you know how many reports. You're someone who has scoured reports the same way I have.
Yes.
There's a lot of reports of kids having to walk down long driveways to get and wait on a bus, and have had like Bigfoot encounters and things happening in the woods where. So imagine something taking an interest in these little kids that walk down a long driveway waiting for the bus early in the morning. And then when the bus picks them up, and that sounds like that might be what happened. It chases the bus because it realized whatever it's interested in just got on the bus.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense. It does. But yeah, they even go back to the early 60s as far as what I found, as far as documented encounters on this reservation. And the reservation itself, culturally speaking, they are not very open to the public. So there's probably a lot more encounters than the ones that have made it to the public arena.
That makes sense. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how big the reservation is, but there clearly is not anything that, like no delineated walls or barriers. I mean, you can just drive through the area and as long as you're not getting out of your vehicle, and getting yourself in trouble or trespassing in any way. I did see a sign that says you are leaving the reservation area, so I didn't really see anything that would preclude you from driving down one of those roads.
Oh no, anybody can get onto the reservation and drive around. I'm just saying that the people who live on the reservation are it's
Tight-lipped.
typical. Typically they are tight-lipped. Yeah, and especially if you aren't part of the reservation, you don't live on the reservation, they're even tighter-lipped about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you guys want to check out the video that I did last week of when I visited that house, it's this house right here. You can see the cursor. And that was when the lady said that her and a bunch of other family members owned this whole section, so she would have to clear it with them. And then the young nephew showed up while I was there, and he had the tribal tattoos on the side of his head, and very, very an interesting looking young fellow. And he looked at me, and when I told him what I was doing, he says, "I thought you were a federal agent."
Yeah, you thought
So,
you were official.
yeah, yeah, not too overly friendly if they think you're a federal agent.
Well, if you consider the past of the last 150 years, Yeah, they might have a
Can't blame
point.
them. Can't
Yeah.
blame them. But yeah, no, it would sure be interesting if you could, if I could make friends with somebody out there. Yeah, I would love to have access to that chunk of land right there, just a place to camp. I'm telling you, all you got to do is camp on that creek for a week or two. You're going to have something visit you. I guarantee it.
Well, and I thought about it also that when I had my uh, experience, I guess you call it, that was the first week of March, and Robert, when he had his down there on 94th Street, it was still within March, a little later in March, but still March. And
Yeah.
I just kind of wonder if there's, this kind of goes back to, I mean, are they nomadic? Do they travel, or do they hunker down in a certain spot type of thing? But it seems like for the reservation, the early spring seems to have sightings or activity. And then right around Halloween, and I don't mean that as far as like the ghosts and the goblins and the high school kids are trying to scare each other and all that. I
But
mean
late
the
fall.
things that
Yeah.
like the howling and the hooting and the screaming, like the when they say they like a lady is dying in the woods kind of scream. Those types of things happen around Halloween on this reservation. I mean, I even heard that as urban legend kind of stuff way back when I was in high school. I never went out to the reservation back then, but I had heard about, those howls even back then.
So,
And
so you're saying, well, I do know when you and I spoke the other day, you talked about a specific dumping ground on the reservation, and those are not the kind of dumping grounds that are well maintained, well taken care of, and covered in fresh dirt daily, and those type of these are the kind of dumping grounds where for weeks at a time people will go out and just dump trash and things,
mhm,
so it's exposed for an extended period of time, and it's right on that little Soldier
you
Creek.
visit that place in the summertime, you better have a strong constitution because you're going to know you're there. It's going to smell.
Wow. So with the screaming, with the seasonal screaming noises that they attribute to the Lady of the Cemetery type
Right.
scenario, and then that open dumping area along the creek that we think is an established travel route, you might have a
There's yeah,
bottleneck of
no,
something going
nothing
on.
says that they're there. Nothing says that they're there, but you've got enough of the puzzle pieces of components that you're like, okay, this warrants looking into, I guess is the way to put it.
Right, right. No, I like it. I like it a lot. Uh, and I want people to know that I was out there earlier and with Mr. Hayes here, and it we
Darn it, you
he
let my last name slip, didn't you?
well, you got it on your it's on
Is
your
it really? It
thing.
is, isn't it? Well, there you go. It doesn't matter. I'm all right with
Oh, you just have to deal with it, man. Cat's
it.
out of the bag. Uh, but yeah, no, we were out there, and it didn't even cross my mind that he was looking across the road there and found a trackway, or not a trackway, but a clear traveled path on both sides of the fence where something is crossing the fence.
I
And it was
I
with,
would call it a game trail is what I would call it.
yes, yeah,
But
clearly. And he saw the broken twigs on both sides of the fence. Something is crossing the fence there, whether it's a deer or whatever, we don't know, but it is in such close proximity to where these other gentlemen saw the Bigfoot walking along the fence line. Clearly there's something, a pattern that's already set in motion. Who knows how many times it uses that pathway, but I've learned enough now to know that they don't change, they don't need to change what doesn't need to be changed. So if they use that trajectory along that fence to get closer to the dump, and then they hit woods further down and follow the creek to the dump, that's a pattern that they don't need to change unless they have to. So if that's true, and I believe it is, they'll use that path again and again and again.
now, Randy, I
So
hope that you'll let me the down on 94th Street where we found the game trail and you did the filming with the little helicopter, the
Drone.
drone. The landowner there, we understand that before this experience, before Bigfoot, before just turkey hunters, deer hunters, all he doesn't let anybody on his land. Nobody has access to his land. So if you are thinking that you want to go up there and go take a look, either you stay on the road that we stayed on and you look, or go up and knock on this old boy's door, because apparently he has a history of standing out in his on his land with a shotgun and a dog, making sure that everybody stays off his land. So we just want to make sure everybody understands that part.
Yeah, and I should have made that disclaimer at the beginning of this. Like, look, I'm going to show you locations. I like showing locations because people like to look on maps and they're like
Sure,
they like
yeah,
to
it's
say, "Man, look."
entertaining. It's cool.
Yes, but I'm telling you, you have to be an adult and don't be stupid. Do not trespass on anyone's property without permission. It's foolish and it's dangerous. So don't do it on my account. And because I don't want to be responsible for someone going out there and getting goofy.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So what's next?
Well, did when you and the youngster went back to the other boys, did
Mm-hmm.
he say anything to the other boys like, "Oh my God, I saw a monster in there" or something?
You know that's actually a really good question, and I wish I could actually answer that one directly. He went back and talked to the other boys, but before he got to the other boys, I separated off and I went back to go sit with my wife in the bleachers, because in my mind he was now safe. He was basically three-quarters of the way to the ball diamond, and the rest of the boys were also headed back to the ball diamond to quote unquote safety. And I was in kind of a shock or a daze. I can't really explain why I did what I did, because if you look at it after enough time has passed and you look back on it, I was like, well, why in the world would I saw something that I can't explain? It's incredible. And all I did is I went and sat next to my wife quietly. And the only thing I did after that is I had looked over my shoulder back towards that wood line, I guess maybe just to make sure that something didn't pop out of the woods type of thing. And everything is calm. I mean, nothing's out of place type of thing. And the
So
boys are,
so you're still rotating in your head. What did I just see? And still trying to come to terms with it. With since it wasn't such uh, an active event. It was more where you just took in information and then you were having to figure out ways to absorb it.
yeah.
But
I mean,
didn't you?
did I actually, what did I see? Did I see, the inside of me was still telling me that it was something alive, right? But my other part of my brain was like, well, if it was alive, why didn't it move? Why couldn't you see more detail? What was that, just a pile of sticks and leaves, and you had made it up in your mind that that was a human because some little boy told you to look at that man? All that's
So
going through your head.
so you had several days that it you pondered it and flipped it
Oh,
over and twisted it around.
I actually worked on that in my head for I don't remember if it was 3 months or 4 months before I went back to the same location, just to find out if I was crazy or not. I don't know how else to describe it. You just want to kind of put it to rest. If it was a pile of leaves and sticks, it should still be back there in that little thing of woods. It shouldn't have moved. So I went back, take a look, and nothing's there. That whatever it was that I had seen, well, the pile of sticks had moved itself somewhere else. I guess is
So
the way to put it.
didn't you also say that was the time when you could actually walk down in there and see that the slope of the ground and
Yes,
so got a
yeah.
kind of a
I
size
I
reference?
took I took a tape measure with me. I took 100-foot tape measure with me. So I had enough presence of mind that, I mean, it wasn't just as I'm driving past down Highway 75 that I decided, oh, the heck with it, I'm just going to turn in. And I actually had my tape measure. I had a notepad with me that I was taking notes. So I had, I guess, somewhat of a plan of, okay, I remember which tree it was that it was standing behind. It was a hardwood, which was actually kind of easy to identify because there were the red cedars were all around it, but there was that one hardwood. And I took note of there was a broken branch that was really close, like a nub that just came off the trunk of the tree, and that branch was only there was light in between the top of its head and the bottom of that broken branch, but only enough for 2-3 inches. So I used that branch for my height scale and measured from there. So I came up with that this thing was 6'9" to 7 foot, based on the slope, based on the where the branch was on the tree. And I knew how far away I was from where it was standing, because the edge of that tree line where the boys were standing, there were cut tree trunks that were all smoothed out, and they were like parking stiles, so that you couldn't go. I mean, if somebody had pulled up into the grass and drove up there to the tree line, they wouldn't be able to drive any further because the tree trunk would stop them, like a parking stile. And where he was standing right there, there was one of those tree trunks, and my toes, I still remember this, that my toes on my left foot, it was touching that tree trunk that was laying down on the ground. So again, I had a hard reference point for my toe touching that to that tree where I know it was standing, and it was 39 feet. It was 39 feet inside that tree line.
Wow.
So in that regard, I was lucky because I had some hard points of data reference to kind of measure from there. So there was either a 7-foot pile of leaves and sticks that happened to have a Missouri Momo look to it. Maybe it's possible that there was a couple of high schoolers that made themselves a statue, that put the statue inside this little tree line, hoping that somebody would find it. Not likely that happened. And I even thought about like a hunter in a ghillie suit type of thing. And you know what I did at one point? I looked up for the first week of March as far as hunting season, and I could be totally wrong with this. There's probably somebody online that'll tell me that I'm completely wrong, but I think I can remember that was turkey season. If I remember right, that was the only season that was available during that time. And I'd have to go back and verify and look and make sure that I'm right by saying that, but that's what my memory tells me. Okay, so you only had one season right there, or for anything that was open for hunting at that point. Not to say that somebody would be doing something illegal. They could, shoot anything at any time if they don't adhere to the law. Or was it maybe like an estranged divorced father that was sneaking up to take a peek at his kid playing ball when he wasn't supposed to, or something? All these kinds of things run through your head because you're trying to think, what did I see? What else could it possibly have been? You've got something
Right.
that's 6'9" to 7 foot tall, and it looked like it had mud caked on its body, and it looked like it had like straw and sticks kind of coming, like it was matted, like it was dirty. It wasn't like like you see in the commercials, the shampoo commercials where the lady is flipping her hair in the wind and it's all pretty. And it didn't look like that. It was very dirty and matted looking. In most ghillie suits, they look like moss. Not all of them, but most of them
Right.
do. And this didn't look like that moss, unless that moss was caked in with a bunch of mud all over it. And I've never known any hunter that would purposely cake up their ghillie suit.
Right. Well, now that I've pulled the map out, I'm gonna make some marks, I'm gonna put some marks on this. So just down the road from the casino is where Scott and the young man had their happening.
Yes.
This is the chunk of land where the bus driver had one chase the bus.
Mm-hmm.
This is the current new sighting down here.
It
And
all basically follows that creek.
the one thing that connects all of that is Little Soldier Creek.
Yep.
Little Soldier Creek.
And if you
Now,
keep going, there's the city dump.
right. And so you come straight down here, and there's the city dump. So that looks like a well thought out travel route to me. Uh,
It does to me too. And when I first had my experience, I never put any of that stuff together. I mean, since Robert had that, on 94th Street, and then talking to you, and then me going back and looking at my old sighting, all that, then it kind of composite kind of coming together. And yeah, I can totally see it. Absolutely.
yeah, and footprints found over here at this state park. But still, you just got these other wooded trajectories where you can travel back and forth across here, and a lot of these open sections. I mean, they're just some of them are only used for hay. I didn't even see very many cows at all when I was there. So
There's
there's
not a
so
lot
much.
of houses out there. There's not a lot of people out there. So, and there's enough creeks. I mean, they're small, and a lot of them are just dry beds, depending on what time of year it is. But you still
Yeah,
have the tree line that goes along that dry creek bed. And okay, let's say they don't travel during the daytime. If you travel between two tree lines on either side of that dry creek bed at night, where there's no houses anywhere, there is nobody that's going to see you. I mean, whether you're human or not human, nobody's finding you.
well, I'm going to tell you this. When I was playing with the map and checking things out, just I believe it was yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and when Robert said that he went around to the bottom of that section to try to relocate the Sasquatch that was walking down the fence line. So
Yeah,
I followed that road on Google Map. You know how you can go all the way down to the road and just follow it like the Google van would be driving.
right.
So I'm following that road, and I'm looking into the brush on the sides of the road using Google Maps. And down around that corner, as you headed down, I was thinking, well, that's a nice stretch of woods that something can be hiding in. And I'm going to tell you, I don't like to look at pictures and then draw circles, but I was thinking to myself, all it takes is just a stretch of woods for one of these things to bed down during the day and wait till night to do what they need to do. And that could be just as easy as any other section of woods out there, the way things look. So I was looking on the side of the road using Google Maps to move forward 30 feet and then look, move forward 30 feet and then look. And I'm going to show you if there was something hunkered down in that brush. And this funky looking contraption van with all the cameras on it that are taking Google Map pictures toodles up that road. And these are not easy roads. I can't believe that they would even be on that road taking the Google Map pictures, but they were. And so can you imagine if a Bigfoot is kind of sleeping in that tree line, and that funky looking van comes through there and it pops its head up, and I'm going to show you. I got one of those that you're going to circle in red, and I'm gonna be like, "What the hell is that? Was he looking at that van going by, the Google van?" So just wait, I'm going to add that in on my video. You're going to laugh.
Cool. I'm down.
Oh, but yeah, man. Uh, I mean, unless there's anything else you want to add to this, I think this has been a great conversation.
No, pretty much all I can come up with. I mean, yeah. I mean, I remembered it accurately, and I can't think of any other information that I had left out of that. I never have followed up with that kid that I understand that his family is well established on the reservation. I remember that his dad had they were batting cages, but they were all netted in batting cages. And I mean, he spent some money and some time putting all this together. And I'm even if those batting cages and netting isn't there anymore, because his kids should all be grown up now,
Right.
that the reservation people should know who this person is, and I know that he lives down on the southern part, the very southern edge of the reservation, closer to Topeka. That much I remember. I mean, we went out to their house once or twice, and because of those the batting cages that he had there in his backyard. I don't remember the father that much. I don't remember. I mean, I know I met him, but I can't tell you much about him. I just don't remember. I can remember the batting cages and his little boy that was on the team. But because it's such a close knit community up there, just asking around, which family had all the batting cages back in 2015, 2010, that era back, somebody would know, they would remember, and we
Right,
could
right.
backtrack that way.
Well, for all the people that are tuning into this little show right now, think about what happened to Scott and that little boy at the time in a field that was usually an adult softball practice field, or so normally it's for adults. And so here's a day when you've got a bunch of 10-year-old boys, and just like Scott said, the chubby kid, and then you got another kid, and they're all loud, and they're doing all of these different things. Think of the Bad News Bears. Think of how entertaining the
Yeah,
Bad
that's
News
pretty much what
Bears
it
were.
was too, just like the Bad News Bears.
Yeah, so imagine the spectacle that a Bigfoot, that we know they're interested in kids. We know there's the curiosity is there. It's across the board as far as that being a fact that we all know. So that seems relevant to what happened here. That one had moved into position because it was watching all of those kids doing their business, and then out of the blue, all of the boys had to go use the restroom at once, and so they all go to the tree line to take a whiz, and all of a sudden that Bigfoot is caught in a spot where he's like, uh-oh, and chubby kid sees him.
Pretty much, that's what happened.
I love it. I love it. I especially love laying out the pattern that I think we can count on this creek being a legit travel route from wherever. I don't know where it would go north from there, or east or west or whatever, but that particular area has enough hiding spots and bedding down areas and places that you just won't get molested. I mean, there's hell, I barely saw a vehicle come through there when I was there doing all my catting around the other day. Barely saw one vehicle. So I can't imagine how how secluded a chunk of woods in there would be. Very safe for these things to bed down during the day.
Well, and the it's even more less traveled nowadays. It was 143rd, 142nd. There was a dirt racing track that was they called it Thunder Hill, and from like the 70s or 80s all the way up into the early 2000s, if you wanted to go see some dirt track racing, that's where you went, was Thunder Hill. Um, that has now closed. Unfortunately, I love going up there and watching the races or whatever, but it was kind of like the casino in regards to how many people would be up there, right? Well, the casino's still going. There's still people there, but that's really close to Highway 75 on 150th Street. So, other than that casino, and the racetrack is now vacated, so there's less people that would visit the place. Now, there's still a lot of people that live up there, but that part hasn't changed in the Bigfoot world as far as who lives up there. But
Right.
as far as the visitors and that traffic coming in and out, it's really 150th Street is the only real visitor traffic, and it stops not that far beyond Highway 75. So the interior of the reservation, you've already kind of experienced it. Very rarely does a car go down any road anywhere down there.
Right, right. Well, I do want everyone to know that Scott and I have a plan, and uh, if this plan works, and it has every opportunity to be successful, and it's going to be a hair and a tissue trap that we think could work. So we were talking about it. We're going to try to set it up where he's just going to set it up, and then occasionally check it. And that I'm so excited about that. I don't want to say much more than that. I don't want to say, where and how, when, or whatever, but it's enough of a possibility. And and in this arena, that's all you've got is hope. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you what, this has a lot of hope for me and a lot of potential to be successful, just given what we know already. And that's got me excited. But I'm also hoping that a video like this, if other people tune into this and they say, look, man, these guys are serious about what they're doing. They're serious about the behaviors and the patterns. And there's got to be people out there that have property that have these things that they know about. And if they reach out, that would be the icing on the cake. I just need a place where I can go camp constantly with all my equipment until something gets caught on thermal camera, thermal drone, recorders and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping for. And you'll have to go camping with me if it happens.
Oh, I'm down. It's been a long time I've been camping, but I'll be a pain in the ass. You'll have to babysit, but that's okay. Yeah, we'll work it out.
You can be a car sleeper. You'll have to sleep in your car.
Actually, you know what? That's probably that's a good vote for both of us right there. I bet we both stay happy that way.
Hey, I had a guy with me.
I'm just being honest.
I had a guy in the Kiamichis with me one time, and we went up on the ridge. And I said, "Look, I said, if something starts happening, I said, just be cool. Don't say anything. Don't make any movements." I said, "Just text me on your phone because I'm sleeping in the back of my truck. He was sleeping in the back seat of my truck, so we were separated." And about 3 a.m., a loud rock landed on the top of my truck. Boom, 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 and you would have thought this dude was trying to come out of a sardine can. The truck was shaking, and he must have got himself wedged down between the seat and the floorboard, and he was trying to get up, and the truck was jiggling. And I was texting him. I was like, quit moving, let it play out, And man, it ended all the activity because he was going crazy trying to get up to the window to look out.
I bet the juvies that they were laughing all the way back to mom on that one.
Yeah.
We got him good.
Yeah. But it's funny. I mean, yeah, once something starts happening, man, it's easy to let your mind get away from you.
Yeah, see, this experience we just went over, this is the only experience that I've had. I mean, I've read lots of reports and I've listened to people and what has happened to them. And I can in my mind I can imagine kind of thing, but other than it being a statue, so to speak, and not no movement, and that alone blew my mind. What I was watching, I couldn't even fathom, like some of these people they talk about where it ran past me 30 foot away from me and then it roared. I couldn't fathom that based on what I'd already experienced, because that took me 3 months to get back there from watching something that never moved, right? And just to kind of, in my mind, kind of put it to rest in my own mind, I couldn't even imagine somebody that had one of these things run past them, and having to deal with that.
Well, the funny thing is, it's taken me a long time to learn about certain things. And if you would have told me this 10 years ago, I would have been like, man, that's weird. That's weird. But since then, I've had so many behaviors where I've seen them freeze. I've seen them move extremely slow so that you don't see movement. That is an unbelievably important technique for them to stay hidden, and it was in frozen mode. I mean, when it feels like it's being watched, they know that we see movement, and I think they fully understand that being still helps them a lot.
Well, I think this one was holding its breath because it nothing was moving.
Right. All right. Well, man, I appreciate this. This is a nice addition to this whole area and what's going on there. Hopefully, somebody else will reach out and we'll get something established there to make it worth keep going up there. And of course, that hair and tissue trap that you and I are going to run for a while. Mm-hmm. That's going to be something we're going to have to work with. But yeah, I appreciate you, buddy, and hopefully we'll be making another video where we're getting some tissue and hairs looked by a scientific establishment. So,
all right, bring it on. Let's have some fun.
All right, man. I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Thank you.
Thank you.